Hello everyone, this is part 17 of What If Naruto Gained Ashura's Memories, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Bingo book entry number 65. Year XX13. Name: Uchiha Sasuke. Moniker: Sharingan no Sasuke, Shiroi Hono no Sasuke, Suki no Urashi. Kekkei Genkai, Sharingan, Mangekyo Sharingan. Special abilities: uses white fire. Field of expertise: ninjutsu, kenjutsu, genjutsu. Rank: mid, high A. Family: Uchiha Mikoto, mother. Uchiha Fugaku, father. Uchiha Itachi, older brother. Senju Uzumaki Naruto, sworn brother. Classification: Sensor type. Orders: A rank shinobi approach with caution, lower rank flee on sight, lone A rank flee as well, if seen with Senju Uzumaki Naruto. Extra info: formerly trained by Sharingan no Kakashi and Namakuji Hime Tsunade. Bingo book entry number 66. Year XX13. Name: Senju Uzumaki Naruto. Moniker: Mokuton no Naruto, Agonshoku Kusari no Naruto, Taiyo Yogan Sha. Kekkei Genkai, Mokuton. Special abilities: Uzumaki Adamantine Chains. Field of expertise: ninjutsu, taijutsu, fuinjutsu. Rank: mid, high A. Family: Uzumaki Kushina, mother. Senju Namikaze Minato, father. Senju Tsunade, cousin, aunt. Senju Tobirama, great-grandfather. Senju Hashirama, great-granduncle. Uzumaki Senju Mito, great-grandaunt. Uchiha Sasuke, sworn brother. Classification: Sensor type. Jinchuriki, Kyubi. Orders: A rank shinobi approach with caution, lower rank flee on sight, lone A rank flee as well, if seen with Uchiha Sasuke. Extra info: formerly trained by Sharingan no Kakashi and Namakuji Hime Tsunade. Konoha, Hokage office. Tsunade stared at the newest bingo book, as if she'd never seen such a thing. Actually, she was staring at two pages, right next to each other. Pages dedicated to her students, Naruto and Sasuke. After the mess in Kiri, the two had been prompted to Jonin, after a formal report on the happenings had been handed in. Alter, if that hadn't been enough, then just a few hours before announcing the boys' new rank, a letter came from the newly instated Godai Mizukage, Terumi Mei, who gave her own account of what happened on the field and suggested Naruto and Sasuke's promotion. It wasn't every day that a foreign cage wrote a letter, just to suggest the promotion of shinobi, who she had barely met. And now, Naruto and Sasuke had their very own pages in the freaking bingo book. They were probably the youngest ever shinobi to be put into the bingo book, and with freaking a rank on top of it. Of course she knew what, or rather, who, her students were, but it didn't make things any easier to digest. It seemed, the boys would leave the likes of her grandfather and Madara in the dust. Her great-uncle and grandfather would just be small notes on the pages of history, while Indra, Ashura, Sasuke, and Naruto would be scrawled onto said pages with the biggest, fanciest kanji possible. It was a shocking revelation. No, a shocking realization. Slowly, ever so slowly, Tsunade pushed the bing book away and took a large swing of her sake. And it was only 9 in the morning. Kumo, Reikage office. Yondaime Reikage A was staring at the newest bingo book with shock. He had heard rumors, of course, that two newly minted, inexperienced Konoha Jonin had subdued the rampaging Sanbi in Kiri, but he thought the rumors somewhat exaggerated. He knew how hard it was to deal with a Biju. Two wet behind the ears Jonin could not have subdued one of the 9. It was just impossible. Also, he'd thought. Now, looking at the bingo book, he had to reevaluate those thoughts. On the top of it, the two young Jonin carried names that were pretty strong, even with the clans now mostly gone. Senju, Namikaze, Uzumaki, Uchiha. Names of the oldest, greatest clans. The names of founders, heroes and battle monsters. He still remembered that war with the Uzumaki. Their village had been wiped out, but in exchange, that clan of monsters had crippled the forces of the 3 attacking villages. The memory sent a cold shiver down his spine. On the top of it all, The Uzumaki spawn was apparently the Kyuubi Jinchuriki as well. Why had the freaking Yondai married Akemi damn Uzumaki? Couldn't he have found another woman? A took a breath to calm himself and pressed the mic on his desk. Reikage-sama. His secretary called. Call me ni Yugito and B. Right now, he ordered. Kami protect them, if those two monsters could subdue Biju. A shivered. Sooner, Kazekage office. Gaara sighed, as he set aside another pile of papers. He wasn't officially Kazekage yet, it was just the question of weeks now, before Huis, but the work was already piling up. Why me? He asked softly, inwardly gazing at his partner. Why does it have to be me, Shukaku? I suppose, that's what you get for being so strong. And for being born into the right family. A bit like Ashura's situation, when Oto-sama chose him, as the heir of Ninshu. And much like you, he didn't ask for it either, but perhaps that's what made him fit for the position of leadership, the Tanuki mused. Before he could answer, the door of the office opened and Temari sauntered in, a cup of tea in her hand, idly flipping trough the most recent bingo book. Gaara glared at her, for disturbing his work, but she was too absorbed in her reading to notice. The redhead rolled his eyes and turned back to his work. He could never understand his sister's odd habit of reading bingo books for fun. Sure, they contained useful information about many strong shinobi, but he would never made bingo book reading a hobby. His sister was odd like that, sometimes. He just set aside another paper, when Temari spit out her tea, thanked Shukaku for the quick reaction and pulling sand over the pile of papers, to protect him from the liquid flying around, her green eyes going wide. She coughed, her face as white as the snows of Yuki no Kuni, if the stories he'd heard were accurate. What now, Temari? He asked, a bit irate. She barged in and disturbed him in his work and now she even made a mess in the office. Just wonderful. Pale as a ghost, Temari placed the bingo book on his, formerly their father's, desk. Read that, she choked, gesturing at the pages. His pale green eyes skidded over the pages and he chuckled softly. Inside, Shukaku was laughing too. It seems my Ototo were busy these past few weeks. Gaara chuckled. So it seems, Shukaku. So it seems. Perhaps all this bingo book thing was the result of what his brothers had been doing in Kiri. He would have to ask them the next time they met, via Mindscape. Iwa, Tsushikage office. Onoki stared at the bingo book and he felt shivers run down his spine. An Uzumaki Senju and an Uchiha, equals in strength, working together, and subduing a Biju. It was all too much like Madara and Hashirama, back when he had been young, save perhaps for the small thing, that if the rumors, and the bingo book, were to be believed, this Senju and Uchiha had nothing against one all. Not a hair out of place. Those two were like brothers, perhaps more, than Madara and Hashirama had ever been. And on the top of it, the blonde menace was Thekiroi no Senko's son. And an Uzumaki, with both the chains and Mokuton. His mind was warring with itself. A part of him roared beyond the too young, way too talented Konoha Jonin. Another part of him wanted Torin and Hyde, because goddammit, the blonde was freaking Namika's Minato spawn, equipped with the Uzumaki chains and probably their unholy stamina and chakra. And the Mokuton. On the top of it, the violet-eyed devil was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, if the data were correct. And had an Uchiha forsworn brother, who was, if rumors were anything to go by, capable of using Susanoo and subduing a Biju. Onoki glooped. Those two were the freaking reincarnations of Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, just much, much worse. I'm too old for this S. A secluded, somewhat rational part of his mind whispered, that he would have to tell Kuretsushito damn her pride Andron, if she ever saw those two, or even one of them. Sangaku no Hakaba. Obito's single eye was wide, as he stared at the bingo book, which Zetsu has picked out of some sorry fool's hand, without the F even realizing. He was recovering well from that disastrous fight, but that didn't mean he was in a good mood. And now, the bingo book in his hand was even more mood-ruining, if such thing was possible. How the freaking hell did that blonde brat and his supposedly talentless cousin get an A rank and flee on-site order on their heads? Was the world coming to an end, even before the possible completion of Project Tsuki no Mi? It was totally abnormal for kids their age to be in the bingo book with a freaking flee on-site order. He groaned, pulling at his hair. It wasn't possible, he refused to believe it. Itachi may have been a prodigy and Minato-sensei and Kushina-san may have been feared, S-rank shinobi, but his was just too much. Slowly, he raised his gaze from the white pages and peered at Zetsu. Are you sure this information is accurate? Yes, Zetsu answered, without hesitation. From what I've gathered, this bingo book was taken from one of the hunter offices in Mizu no Kuni, a few days ago. Freshly updated. Obito's gaze flickered down onto the page. I'll flay Itachi alive, for saying that his brother was a talentless, arrogant little s, he grunted. F my life. We'll need Madara-sama back here, in his prime sooner, than originally planned. He thought in worry. Konoha, Hokage office. Naruto and Sasuke stared at the bingo book Tsunade had shoved into their hands, the moment they arrived in her office. A bit taken aback, they blinked down at the small booklet's open pages, and as they read it, their eyebrows went higher and higher, until they reached the hairline. Then, the two brothers blinked at each other. When did Kiri have the time to update bingo books? Sasuke asked. They're supposed to be dealing with the political mess. Naruto glanced down at the pages again. I'm more curious about who told the people about my old moniker. Utataka-san or perhaps Yagura. And why? There was a loud thud. The boys perked up at the sound and found Tsunade face first against the antique oak desk. Oba-san? Naruto asked tentatively. The emotions in the room were ready to blast and he wasn't, so why? You two are the youngest shinobi to get into the bingo book with an A rank and you're concerned about what moniker you got. She fumed, eye twitching. The boys shared a look and Naruto's eyebrow arched upwards. Ah, yes. Tsunade groaned and her forehead hit the table again. Kami, damn it, she murmured, I need an entire barrel of sake. On the sea. The man looked out the ship's window, studying the glinting blue water, his gaze flickered to the other, that stood to his left. Is everything ready? The other nodded. Hi. He shifted slightly, the sunlight reflecting off his white hair. Then steer the fortress. Konoha's days are numbered, and we will rise. Konoha. Training ground 40 was all smoke and ruins. The ground cracked open, several punctures in it, where it could be seen, that volatile electricity has torn it up. Other fissures bore slight resemblance to fists. The ground was charred, yet there were pools of water, that made the whole place slippery with mud. In other parts, the mud was hardened into clay and there were roots and branches standing out from the ground at odd places and in odd angles. There were some trees, originally surrounding the training ground, that were also uprooted or their bark split. In short, the whole place was completely destroyed, courtesy of two restless Otsutsuki incarnates. Naruto grinned, as he leapt at his brother, shakujo in hand. After several weeks of waiting, their specific orders had finally been delivered by Tenten a few days ago and now they'd found time to test their new weapons. He swung his weapon, the 6 rings jingling softly at the rapid movement. Sasuke's Sharingan flashed and he shifted his own, so that the crescent-like top caught his own. Naruto, unbothered by that hindrance, kicked out, but Sasuke caught his foot with his free hand and their eyes met. Both of them grinned and slowly, they untangled themselves, wiping away the sweat they'd worked up while sparring. Of course, anyone looking at the remnants of the place, would have said, that they were trying k-other. Naruto hummed satisfied, looking at his new weapon. It felt entirely like the one he'd used so long ago. I think these pass the test, right? Durable and good chakra conductive quality. Sasuke hummed, shifting his grip on his own shakujo and lowering it, so it touched the ground. Sasuke's red gaze swept the 2 black weapons and nodded. Hi. Higurashi Weapons indeed offers quality products. His eyes flickered over their forms and he sighed. We should change. We practically managed to destroy our own clothing as much as the training ground, he murmured. Naruto looked down at himself and then at Sasuke. Their pants were torn and he didn't even have a shirt, while Sasuke's own was hanging off of his form in tatters. Naruto was surprised that he still had his silver pendant and his granduncle's crystal. Both rested calmly on his chest, the green-blue crystal pulsing softly with energy. Yeah, it seems so, he chuckled softly. Let's go. And then both of them were gone in special shunshin, Sasuke in a torrent of white flames, while Naruto in vortex of water, filled with sakura petals. Just 10 minutes later, the head of the Anbu division would bring a group of new recruits to training ground 40 for training, only to find the place completely destroyed. Said head Anbu cursed very colorfully in his head. Damn you Team Row. That's your work for sure. Someone really should put restraints on you 4. I'm certainly speaking with God Sama about this, he thought. Sasuke sighed, as he was finally done with changing clothes. He gently grabbed his hair and the tape, and wrapped the white cloth around his dark tresses. Slowly, his hair was getting to be the same length as it had been in the past. It was still only half the original length. It was the same spiky though, okay, maybe perhaps just a little bit less spiky, but it was getting there and it was reassuring. It also helped that he'd figured out how to use chakra to help his hair grow, but shush, that was something no one needed to know. Okay, perhaps Naruto had figured out the trick, but his Ototo had always liked messing with his long hair, so he wouldn't complain. Quite the opposite. In fact, Sasuke had a feeling that Itachi would thank him for figuring out a way to grow his hair faster. Since his hair hadn't been this long for a long while, Naruto had started pestering Itachi when he was in the mood to be childish and forget their "we must save the world" quest, just for an hour or two. The broody look on Itachi's face, as Naruto played with his hair, was worth Uchiha fortune. Alter, Sasuke recalled with a small chuckle, that braidad looked rather nice on Itachi. He was off from his musings, when he sensed several chakra signatures getting close to the village. His sensory was still not as strong as Naruto's, but the training with his summons had helped a lot in sharpening his senses, all of them. His sensory prickled with unknown chakra and the wind brought the faint scent of foreigners with it. "Ni-sama, do you?" Naruto called. Sasuke shot from his room and nodded, muscles tense. Yes, I can feel them coming. Unknown. And many of them. Naruto said, voice hard, about 20. No. 30 or so. And the fast. Naruto closed his eyes and Sasuke felt his brother's chakra rise and get condensed. The energy burst forth from his body in a visible flame, strong enough for Sasuke to actually feel a soft pressure on his chest. He flared it even more, then pulled it back, and then again. Anbu Morse Trough Chakra. Clever. They definitely owed Atia to Yamato, for the Mokuton user taking his time to teach them proper Anbu protocol and code, even though they weren't part of the Black Ops. They disappeared in a synced Shunshinto appear on the top of the Namika's house, their eyes searching the surroundings. Sasuke blinked and his Sharingan was active. They saw several dots on the sky, as if it were a great flock of birds, but it wasn't. Those were. I thought the only ones capable of flight were those in possession of Rikudo chakra. Sasuke murmured, bewildered and wary all at once. Oh, and there's the Sandaime Tsushikage. Naruto injected. Ryotenban no Onoki, in possession of Theji Tonkeke Tota. Or at least, that's what the bingo book says, and I'm inclined to believe that the information is somewhat accurate, considering how accurate our pages are. Sasuke arched an eyebrow in interest. A man. A non-Otsutsuki possessing a Keke Tota. I might just be impressed right now. Itachi stood next to Kakashi and they watched in bewildered shock, as countless shinobi passed overhead on flying devices. What the hell? Itachi cursed in the privacy of his mind and his Sharingan flared to life. Next to him, Kakashi cursed loudly, as the enemy dropped bombs and launched a rapid sequence of kunai. Both of them leapt away and he stole a glance at his former Anbu teammate. What now? Those symbols. Kakashi murmured, his lone eye trailed on the flying enemy, their shinobi from Sura no Kuni. Itachi arched an eyebrow at those words. Weren't they destroyed in the Second War? I mean at the start of it. The Uzumaki at least were lucky enough to pull trough till the very end, but Sora no Kuni. Indeed they were, Kakashi murmured, as they prepared for a counterattack, jutsu and weaponry at hand. Or so, we assumed. Their conversation was halted, when an explosion went off, ruining the cage tower. Snapped to attention, both of them noticed several things flying and falling off of the attacking unit's hands. There was another explosion and Naruto cursed. Naruto sat down and closed his eyes. Time to pull up Uzumaki barriers. He would not let his home get ruined by the Shinju knows what nameless shinobi. Next to him, Sasuke cursed colorfully and released a pretty powerful wind to counter the enemy. Naruto connected the several ceiling tags that he'd littered across the village walls after the disaster into which the Chunin exams had turned. His father and great-grandfather had helped draw the seals and later he linked each one together and put them in a dormant state with his chakra. Ninja was really versatile, if one knew how to use it. Sasuke leapt from the roof, probably to deal damage to the enemy, but Naruto wasn't overly worried. His brother was capable of taking care of himself just fine. He placed a hand on the roof, Theshika spreading around him, as he materialized his chains and allowed him to sink into the seal. He raised his hand in a half-ram for better focus, cursing as another few explosions went off. Uzumaki Haiden, Kongo Fuser Shoheiki. Uzumaki Secret Tradition. Adamantine Sealing Chain Barrier. His breath hitched, as the rapidly forming chains drained his chakra in one cruel yank, but even before he could start worrying, Kurama's chakra entered his system, amplified by some nature chakra. He still couldn't enter Sage mode, but the little nature chakra, that his body collected, could be used to aid Kurama. Asmal's smile tugged at his lips, as the sound of explosions was drowned out by the rattle of chains. Tsunade watched in shocked worry, as the enemy bombarded the village, and she was powerless to do anything. Tsunade-sama, Shizune called in worry. Tsunade stole her glance. Sound the alarm. We're under attack, she said, tone hard as she turned back to the window to watch. Shizune turned on her heels and ran off. Meanwhile, Tsunade watched, powerless to do anything as the enemy bombed the village. She saw several shinobi out there, on the roofs, trying to attach the Sorenin, only to be seen down by their rapidly flying kunai. Then, she suddenly felt a powerful chakra spike and despite not being a sensor, it sent Ashura down her spine. The chakra felt like her grandfather. Then, she saw several dots of light on the walls, as if someone had turned on some switch. The chakra spiked even more, washing over the entire village. Kami have mercy, just what was Naruto capable of. Then, she watched, wide-eyed as massive, golden chains made of chakra formed from the village walls, from the dots, which were most likely some seal, and rose, knotting all over one another, creating. Her breath hitched. That was Kushina's chain barrier. A sheen of bluish-green chakra stretched between the knotted chains, see off the airborne enemy from the village. Some Sorenin were lucky, or unlucky, depending on the perspective, to be caught under the barrier. Those few were being attacked by Konoha's forces, all too many were too shocked to do anything, defenders and attackers at the same time. Then, she felt another powerful chakra spike, this one reminded her briefly of Madara. Wild and searing hot, all too much calmer. Sasuke. From a few roofs north of the Namikaze estate a massive wall of white fire formed and sped off the barrier, catching 3 Sora shinobi at once. Shikamaru pressed his lips into a thin line, as he observed the enemy. What is that? They're using chakra. They're circulating chakra in the wings to give them power. Neji said, his Byakugan ablaze, in circulating their chakra, it changes the currents and allows flight. Shikamaru cursed. Damn it, we have to do, he was see off, as ear-splitting rattling filled the air and he watched massive golden chains materialize from the walls surrounding the village. Heck knew those chains. Neji choked. Just how much chakra does Naruto have? That's unholy, he murmured in shock. Then, a few roofs away, he saw a familiar form. Sasuke, his chakra flared in that visible shroud, like back in the Chunin exams and then he breathed out a great wave of snow-white fire, touches of blue here and there. Shikamaru watched, as he flames passed off the barrier created by the chains without problem, catching some of the enemy shinobi. At this rate, Shikamaru murmured, I might start developing an inferiority complex, just by watching what those two can do. You're not the only one. Neji murmured softly. Naruto sighed, when the enemy finally retreated. Most of the damage had been caught by his barrier, which was a good thing. Konoha was in ruins and some parts were burning, but it wasn't as bad, as it could have been otherwise. He stood on shaky legs, more than a bit tired from all this ordeal. Keeping a village-sized barrier active, while the enemy tried blasting trough it wasn't exactly a chakra-friendly thing, even for him. Still, the sight of smoke rising from various parts of the village, set him on edge and gave him strength to move forwards. Sasuke would be fine, he was sure. For the time being, it may be more effective, to go on and try helping the people separately. He sped towards the burning buildings, releasing chakra, already gathering water from the air. Some Anbu were already there, trying to douse the flames, but they were burning hot and fast and using Suten without a source nearby was always taxing. At times like this, he really appreciated all the old principles of ninja his father and uncle had laid down, even before he was born. Also that extra Suten training with Tobirama Gigi was nice, too. His hand flickered into a dog sign and the water barreled forwards from around him, right at the fire. The four Anbu looked at him in shock. He could feel surprise, awe and growled coming from them. Arigato, Senju-sama. Naruto waved at the man, knocking the red cloth on his attire, the captain of the squad. Think nothing of it, Captain. I'll look around for eye or trapped. Try controlling this chaos. Of course. And then, the four were gone. The handy thing about being related to 4 out of 5 Hokage, and being the son of a foreign princess, who had lived here and added to Konoha's strength and fame, was that now, with his prowess known, no one really objected his orders. Not in this situation. He leapt down and stretched his senses, alter it wasn't really necessary. His violet gaze soon found a young woman and Asmal girl, the woman, either the girl's mother, or perhaps her sister, Without thinking, Heshunshin next to her, startling the little blonde. He crouched down and his hand glowed with green chakra. The woman's gray-blue eyes went wide, as she saw him. Say, shush now, Naruto murmured, save your stent. Ni-san, the little girl sobbed sadly. Naruto glanced at her and smiled reassuringly. Shush now, Firefly. Your Ni-san will be all right, soon enough. I promise, he said, gently reaching out a tendril of calming chakra to the girl, as his gaze settled on the poor young woman. After a few minutes, the woman's breathing eased and Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. When he was sure the woman was mostly fine, he let her sit up. Their eyes met. Do you know where are the emergency bunkers, for situations like this? Yes. She nodded, blinking tiredly. Naruto nodded, tapping her wrist, which applied Asmal, green medical seal onto her skin, in the form of the Senjusavaja. Then go. The seal will gradually release and heal you further. I didn't have time. It will also confirm I sent you, so the shinobi will let you take cover there. Lie down. Sleep, if you can. And don't forget to eat, if possible. Your body needs energy to recover, my seal can only do so much. Alright, she murmured and Naruto helped her stand up. She grabbed the girl's hand, stealing him a glance. Arigato, Senju-sama, she dipped her head and hurried away. With a soft huff, Naruto moved further. He had lives to save. Team 13 stood in the cage office, their eyes briefly trailed on the broken window, before looking at the livid Godime. Team 13, as loath as I am to say this, I'll need you to split up, she said. Yes, Sasuke asked. Naruto, please help with the eye. The blonde nodded with ahem and Sasuke guessed his brother had expected that request. He was affily trained, if uncertified, as of yet medic and there were many Of course, Oba-san. Kakashi, you take Shino, Shikamaru, Sai and Sasuke. Try tracking where the enemy might have gone off to. Tsunade instructed, her brown eyes ablaze with fierce protectiveness. As reluctant as she'd been to become Hokage, the office, or more like the village, had grown on her more than ever before, and anyone who harmed what was dear to a Senju Uzumaki, well, hell hath no wrath, like a woman scorned, they said. A scorned Uzumaki, though, was an entirely different matter, capable of taking down an entire battalion, if the situation called for it. And right now, the Godime Hokage was the epitome of a scorned Uzumaki. Hi, Hokage-sama. Sasuke stopped, as he placed his hand on the doorknob, just to glance back at the woman. Who were these shinobi, sensei? The woman grimaced. Sora no Kuni. A technologically advanced community, similar to Yuki no Kuni. They went down during the Seond War. We thought them destroyed. But they're back, so it seems. And they obviously want revenge on Konoha, for what happened during the war. Sasuke sold. Revenge. Can humanity never see past pettiness and revenge? He muttered darkly, I'm starting to question what the hell had Oto-sama even seen in this world. I can name the people worth saving, the others just add to the pile of problems we're trying to tackle. With those words, he slipped out of the office, followed by Kakashi. Naruto sighed, as he let the green chakra fade from his hand, studying the girl. Who treated her, before she was brought in. It's a work of skill, he said, stealing a glance at Ino, who'd brought in the unlucky, or lucky, depending on the preceptive, civilian. The Yamanaka heiress shook her head. I don't know. It was an aged man, I've never seen him before. He said he was a doctor. I assume, a civilian one, so I brought her in, just to be sure. Besides, he said she'll need to be watched. Did you say doctor? A new, unfamiliar voice called. Naruto's gaze flickered towards it, just as someone he'd never seen before landed in the room via window. The person's chakra was calm and low in level. A civilian girl. She had shocking blue eyes and reddish-brown hair, tied with a bandana. The stranger darted closer and peered at the unconscious patient. She was probably treated by Master Shino, she said. Naruto arched an eyebrow. By who? And who are you, if I may ask? The girl's gaze flickered to her. My name is Amaru. I came to Konoha to look for my sensei, because our village had been attacked by unknown shinobi, but I see they attacked here as well. Naruto raised an eyebrow. So, you were attacked by these shinobi? Amaru nodded. Yes. I hopped to find Master Shino so he could help. Her eyes settled on the patient again. He's here somewhere. He can help me in my village. I need to find him. The sadness and desperation radiating off of her was really tugging at his heartstrings. Not that it's hard to tug at your heartstrings, Ashura. Kurama injected, rather unexpectedly. Naruto rolled his eyes inwardly at his Biju brother. Quiet now, Kurama. This is serious, he chided softly. Then, he looked at Amaru. I'll speak with the Hokage and then I think, we may be able to help you. He quickly formed a snake seal, wordlessly creating a wood clone and he waved it off. It could aid the medics, while he was inside the village. At this rate, its chakra wouldn't last longer than an hour or two, at best. Come with me, he called, looking at Amaru. He nodded to Ino and slipped away. Confused, yet hopeful, Amaru followed. Unknown location, Orochimaru's hideout. Kabuto frowned, as he heard the bone-rattling cough. His master's health was rapidly delsining, despite his best efforts. Not exactly a good thing. Orochimaru-sama. A moment passed, before the Sannin looked at him. I'll need to perfect that jutsu and fast. The Zaman, Shino, an accomplished doctor, he'd helped me before. I need his help again. He can help me finish the jutsu and achieve my objective, he said in a raspy voice. Kabuto nodded. What shall we do? Send the Sound 4 to find him, the Sannin instructed. Kabuto dipped his head and slipped out of the room. Luckily for him, he didn't need to barge trough the entire hideout, because he ran into the redhead, and the only female member of the Sound 4. Tayuya, he called. The redhead stopped and gave him a dark look, but didn't speak. What is it? Kabuto waited for a moment, to be sure he had her full attention. There's an important mission for the four of you. Orochimaru-sama would need it done in haste. Sasuke's senses went haywire, when they laid eyes on the ships, where the Sora Nin had landed. Something wasn't right. The coast was quiet, tranquil in a way he did not think it would be, with invaders nearby. Yet the tranquility and the sunshine, which would fit into fairy tales, was also deceiving. Something evil, otherworldly was crawling over the ships, a fraction of energy, that did not fit into the definitive chakra, as his father had taught it to them, when Sono Kuni still existed and was one of the ruling kingdoms. As much as it could be called a kingdom, that is. So this is where they're hiding. Shikamaru murmured, as he glanced at them. Is the plan clear? He grinned wryly at the Nara. Of course it is. Sai nodded as well, unfurling his scroll. Sasuke eyed the boy with just a little bit of distrust. With his coloration, he would have passed for an Uchiha. All to his chakra felt nothing, like those of his kin. Besides, the former root operative was skilled in ink-based ninjutsu and some fuinjutsu, which was a surprise, as the latter was a rather complex art. How maneuverable are your creations? He asked, looking at the ink user. Sai looked at him seriously. Pretty nicely. Definitely better than those flying devices the Sora Nin have. Sasuke nodded. Good. Get ready to be quick, then. I'll cover for you, but my jutsu are rather volatile, with so much water around us. Sai gave an acknowledging hum and turned to his scroll, to ready his drawing. In the meanwhile, Shino pulled his coat tighter around himself, ready to infiltrate the enemy lines. Sasuke had a bad feeling about the whole place. Something was just off. He just couldn't put his finger on it. He looked at the Aberrame. Something's not right here. Keep your hive from feeding off the shinobi. The chakra here makes my skin crawl, and that only happened at one time, when we encountered Orochimaru. I'll keep that in mind. Sasuke's eyes narrowed, as the Sky Ninja flew after Sai. It was obvious that he was in trouble. There were too many of the foreigners airborne for Sai to deal with them on his own. A part of him wished he had some bird summons. No. There's another way. he thought, a smirk forming on his lips. He channeled more chakra into his eyes, morphing them into the higher level. One of these days, he'll have to ask Naruto and Tsunade to help him and Itachi switch eyes, before his brother went blind. Kongen, Amaterasu. Origin, heavenly illumination, his eyes spun and the chakra took effect. He felt the sting and the heavy pressure on his system, that always came with using the second level, but he grit his teeth and channeled more chakra in the flames to further increase the heat. 3 of the enemy nin caught fire, the black flames devouring them at an unnaturally fast rate. What is that? Shikamaru asked, as he caught another nin with his shadow, his eyes briefly flickering to the black fire. I thought your fire was white. Sasuke chuckled. Theshiroi Hunwa, the peak of natural fire transformation. Something I could teach you or anyone else, as long as you have the necessary proficiency in the element and enough chakra, ahajutsu, I suppose, if you want to categorize it. Those black flames, my friend, Arimaterasu, an ability of the Mangekyo Sharingan, that only a few of my clan ever had access to. It's an extension of our Kekkei Genkai, in a way. Shikamaru's eyes flickered to the Sora nin, as they fell into the ocean. Impressive. Just as the few men touched down on the ship, Sasuke sensed a massive source of chakra, several tiny, living ones creating a great pull. Slowly the ship was swammed by Shino's hive and his lips curled upwards. The aim was good, the enemy hadn't even noticed that their presence was merely a diversion. As Shino climbed out of the water, drenched to the bone, Sasuke gave him a slight nod of acknowledgement. Finely done. Thank you. Sasuke cursed again, as he felt the lightheadedness sneaking up on him, courtesy of too much chakra used, at a rapid rate, and tapped the chakra storage seal on his wrist. Fuin, Kai. Seal. Release. The small black pattern spread out, glowing softly and his reserves were filled once more, the touch of medical chakra Naruto left in the very foundations of the seal, dulling the ache of his chakra pathways. Kakashi's eyebrow went up a notch. Chakra storage seal. When? Sasuke shrugged. You know how good Ototo is. It was his idea, after he formed his Byakugo, he thought it might help keep us on equal footing, in a sense. He has bigger reserves and denser chakra anyway, that's just how it is, but this thing do help in narrowing the gap between us, chakra-wise. His former teacher's single eye rested on the slowly sinking ships. We should go back and report. Kumo. While Konoha was dealing with the invading Sora forces, the unsuspecting shinobi of Kumogakur were going on with the normal lives. Well, most of them, that is. 2 certain individuals were seated on the top of Asmal Mountain, meditating. Or rather, connecting their minds trough their biju, which allowed them to meet both of the great beings at once. Both bees and Yugito seals were in top condition, but despite their relatively good relationship with their respective biju, neither of their seals were completely open, therefore tags and poles littered the space, showing the seal's purpose. Yugito was a tall, blonde-haired woman, her long hair tied back in aloe ponytail, wrapped with tape. Her eyes kept jumping between the 2 biju. Matatabi was to her right, closer to her, while Gyuki was to her left, somewhat farther away, but thus, predictably closer to B. As her gaze kept shifting between the 2, she sensed how serious the 2 were. Obviously B could feel it too, as he was uncharacteristically silent, eyeing the Hachibi with some worry. What's wrong? She asked, peering at the cat. Matatabi huffed and laid down. That bingo book you were called for, she spoke, her voice serious. What about it? B asked. Have you read it? The Oniashi asked. Those 2 younglings, there was only one Sharingan user throughout history, who was capable of creating and controlling Theshiroi Hono. Yugito blinked, her eyes shifting between the 2 biju. You know that technique? Yes, we do. Matatabi confirmed, its creator based the flames off of my own blue fire, although he actually succeeded in using natural fire, not needing special chakra, like ours is. Those flames are natural fire, that you would use to light a campfire, but much, much hotter, hence the color. That fire is strong enough to combat even me and my 4-tailed brother. Yugito's jaw fell open. But that's impossible. Only biju can match a biju, no. Answer only Jinchuriki can match Jinchuriki. And the Uchiha isn't one, a host, a mean. Normally, I would agree with you. Gyuki said, but not this time. There were 2 people, who had enough power, to halt even us. All 9 of us, separately, maybe even 2 of us at once. Ek of them were capable of holding 2 of us, 3, if their chakra was stretched thin. Perhaps, if they had worked together, they would have been able to hold all 9 of us at once and still walk away afterwards. Yugito's eyes went wide and a shiver ran down her spine. She noticed B fidgeting as well. To think there were people so strong. Who could be capable of such a feat? She whispered in fear. Matatabi shifted again. Our younger brothers. Sons of the man, you humans know, as the Rikido Sennin. Sons of the Sennin. B asked, throwing a look at Matatabi. Gyuki agreed, Indra and Asuri Suzuki. Indra, being the first wilder of Thesharingan, eventually, his bloodline became the Uchiha clan. And Asura, the younger, he had our father's body and chakra. He was the first user of what you know, as Themokuten. His descendants became the Senju and later, the Uzumaki. Yugito swallowed hard and looked at the Hachibi again. And what does this mean? It means, those 2 youngsters are either the most dangerous enemies, Matatabi murmured, or the best allies. Indra and Asura had a fallout in their lifetime, which caused the beef between the Senju and Uchiha. The last person, who had Themokuten, was Konoha's Shodaime, Senju Hashirama. His chakra felt startlingly, like Asura's used to be, all too much weaker. Not that the man was weak, he was just simply not as well versed in chakra usage, as Asura. What the point is, Gyuki added, that those 2 are possibly a lot like our brothers used to be. Answer, they are very dangerous, as enemies. Try staying away from them. Well, Asura-kun had always been kind and considerate, but Indra, once he spoke of imprisoning us. Any descendant of his, poses a danger. Especially if the rumors of the 2 of them together subduing Isabu is true. Yugito bit her lip and stole a glance at B. We'll be careful, she promised. Sons of the Rikido Sennin, stronger than the likes of Senju Hashirama, the thought sent a dreadful shiver down her spine. She hoped never to see those 2 Konoha nin. Naruto leaned against the room's wall, as he let Shino sit by Amaru's bed. The girl had fainted from exhaustion not long after entering Tsunde's office. And while he carried her back here, Ino had some luck and found the stranger, who'd treated the girl she'd brought in the morning. As it turned out, Amaru was indeed Shino's apprentice. The man was a doctor, who'd retreated from shinobi life a long ago. The man looked at him. As their eyes met, violet on pale gold, Naruto felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. For some reason, his negative emotion sensor was going haywire and it didn't bode well. At the same time, he didn't understand why. The man seemed kind enough. He was one to heal and not destroy, from what he'd seen. You should be resting. Shino said kindly, you've used too much chakra. I didn't know what you were doing, but I can see the signs of exhaustion. Naruto twitched at how true the words were, however, he would not admit it to Astranga. He could partially release his Byakugo, he had more than enough chakra inside it to help his recovery, however doing so, would stretch his body. He knew that the seal was meant to help regeneration, by speeding the splitting of cells. A nice idea, but full of faults, he thought. He would have to try and figure something out about it. As useful as the seal was, it wasn't nice that it shortened his lifespan, even with how strong his life force was. Not as strong as in his first life, but he was sure that the reincarnation strengthened his body and chakra even more, so he was stronger than any half-B Senju Uzumaki before him. Kurama's chakra was slowly mixing with his own, nudging along his natural healing, but his chakra pathways were rather strained from the stunt he'd pulled with the chains, so his brother had to be careful with how much he helped. I will be fine. I'm a shinobi and a medic myself, he said dismissively. I'm very aware of what I can and cannot withstand. His eyes flickered to the man. Thank you for your concern, though. Still, as his eyes drifted shut, he was thinking about taking a soldier pill. Something told him that this mess was far from over. The Sora-nin had to be dealt with and fast. He had protected the village now, but he doubted he could pull off another one like this, without serious backlash. The council was in uproar from hearing he wanted to leave with Sasuke to investigate. You'd abandoned village when we need you most. Koharu asked, eyes narrowing. It was the barrier. Naruto growled, his eyes flashing red, with a spike of Kurama's chakra. I'm not abandoning Konoha. And if you want to live, old hag, you will never even suggest sick acting again, or the Shinigami help me, or will allow the Kyuubi to do what he had done with Shimura. She drew back, as if and Naruto pulled his chakra forth, to mask Kurama's. The village didn't need to know he was practically running on the thing right now. Naruto, Tsunade called softly, her tone far from as sharp as it usually was, when she put down an unruly council member. Please, no threats. We've enough problems anyway. Ototo is right. Sasuke spoke, his tone chilling, as he threw a look at the old hag. We cannot wait for them to come back. We have to strike, when they don't expect, and maybe we can figure out something about them, by going out to that village. With how much chakra the barrier ate up, he wouldn't be able to use it. Sasuke trailed off for a second, his Sharingan running over his chakra system in a cursory manner, again for about 72 hours. I doubt the enemy will need that much time to refuel and get ready. Hence, we'll be defenseless anyway. Everyone fell silent at that. Tsunade sighed and nodded. Permission granted. You two may accompany Amaru and Shino. Anyone else you'd like to go with you? Naruto hummed thoughtfully, before throwing a look at the Hyuga clan head and then at Tsunade. Hyuga Neji. Very well. The three of you may escort the two of them. They sat in small rowboats, making their way up the river. In the meanwhile, Sasuke kept his sensory stretched to its fullest, knowing that Naruto was still tired. Better than before, but still tired. The protective part of him wanted his little brother safe and tucked in bed, where he could rest, but the rational part of him said, that useless Naruto passed out, the blonde wouldn't stay put anyway. Not with the village in danger and so many people in need of healing and reassurance. So, if Naruto was up and about, best have him where he could keep a Sharingan on him, just to be safe. His head jerked upwards and he cursed. Shinju, damn it, he hissed. Enemy incoming, he said, expelling some chakra, to steer the water's current. Shino looked at him in surprise at the masterful display of Suiton usage, but he ignored it. For the man, this was mastery. For him, it was a mere trick of ninju. Therial Suiton master in the family was pull water from the air, like the Nadai and his brother. Neji pulled down a few branches of the tree they stopped under, concealing them. The air was filled with sharp swishing of wind, as the Sora patrol passed ahead. When they were gone, Shino steered them back onto the main route on the river. As he did so, the other boat was flipped and Naruto resurfaced, drenched and irate, but fine. Amaru? He asked, glancing at Naruto. Naruto raised his hand and noticed that he was only holding the girl's jacket. Amaru. He tossed the jacket to the boat and dived underwater again. Sasuke twitched, worried that Naruto was still too tired for this. A few minutes later Naruto resurfaced, bringing the girl with him. He sighed in relief and hopped onto the water, to help pull the two out and back onto their own boat. That was when he noticed a flock of carnivorous fish, heading for his brother. A blast of K intent and cold chakra was enough to make the fish disappear, before they could do any harm. Naruto flashed him a grateful smile and then, they continued upstream. Naruto huffed, glad when Amaru announced that they were near the village. They'd been walking for a while now and he was staring to think the girl was leading him astray into some trap. The uneasy feeling that set his senses on high alert still hadn't faded, and it seemed, the more they progressed the uneasier Sasuke himself was. But, as they neared it, he caught the faint scent of smoke in the air. Naruto? Neji asked, immediately noticing the shift in his body language. Smoke, he said. Amaru's eyes widened and before any of them could react, she bolted. Shino called after her, but she was deaf to the warning and hurried forwards anyway. They followed her, their steps more hurried than before. They could hear her frantic calls, as she looked for the villagers. Naruto sighed sadly. Other than him, he couldn't sense anyone. The place was empty and burning. Fire crackled everywhere and Somki rose into the sky in fat puffs, almost like angry clouds. Amaru, we should, he called, as they passed the gate. She tripped and stumbled, and the neat moment, Naruto saw the silvery glint of metal and heard several weapons, perhaps bows, being released. A hail of kunai came from several trees and bushes, headed straight for the stairs, where Amaru was. Amaru, Shino called sharply. Naruto felt Sasuke move, chakra crackling under his feet, but for once, the white-haired doctor was faster. The man used his blade to diverege several kunai, before pushing Amaru out of harm's way. But at the same time, he left himself open and more kunai than he could possibly avoid without a masterful shunshin lodged into his body. Naruto winced inwardly at every dull thud, as the kunai buried in the man's body, at least halfway. No. Master Shino. Amaru called. The man fell to his knees, smiled briefly and then rolled down the stairs, burying some of the kunai even deeper into his body. Ouch. Not Anna's way of death. Hang in there. Master Shino. Naruto pushed her away, as he knelt next to the man, hands burning with dense, green chakra, some mokuton thrown into the fold, to amplify the healing. The man looked at Amaru, uncaring of the talk about close calls. Huh. I get there just in time, to get you out of harm's way. Why? Amaru asked, her blue eyes wide. Because you're the one I recognize, as my apprentice, he said quietly, his breathing becoming more and more labored. With a single move, he removed his bandana and gave it to Amaru. It's all up to you now. Work with our new friends and find the villages. You must hurry, find them, save them. He choked on air and Naruto cursed. Amaru grabbed the man's shoulders, careful not to jolt the kunai. Doctor. What the hell? Something was wrong, but it was like his chakra was barely doing any healing. Had the kunai been P2? Doctor. Amaru was now openly crying, tears streaming down her face. Doctor. Neji knelt next to him, Byakugan ablaze. Naruto gently, but hurriedly spread his chakra even further, trying to stop the bee and help along the healing, but he could feel it. He could hear it. The man was slipping away, the Shinigami was just lingering above them, ready to take him from the land of living. Naruto sighed dejectedly, just as Neji allowed his Byakugan to deactivate. He pulled his hand away. The man was. Naruto briefly wondered, if Amaru or the man were the source of the hair-raising energy. No. Doctor. Amaru shrieked, the grief radiating off of her, nearly choking, as she leaned down to hug the now motionless body. Kurama-ni-sama, can you identify the energy? He asked, his eyes flickering about uneasily. I'm afraid not, Ashura. But it's not natural, that much I can tell. And, yes, it's coming from the man. The girl is wrapped in it too, but the source is the man. It was an information he'd file away for later. Meanwhile in Konoha, Tsunade grit her teeth, as she noticed another group of incoming Sora Nin. She looked at Iruka, who'd come to report on the damage done and that the civilians were now safely in the bunkers. Sound the alarm. They're back. Hi, Hokage-sama. As the scarred Chunin disappeared, she turned back to the window, to watch the incoming foreigners. A part of her wanted to go out and fight, but these shinobi were airborne and they had the advantage. If the village would be forced to look for a new Hokage in the worst of scenarios, and she didn't want that. This mess would be bad enough to clean up, without her She turned on her heels. She may not be able to help on the field, to defend the village, but she could help in the hospital. Several of the Sora devices were dropped and as they exploded, she cursed in her mind. She hoped Naruto and their little group would be successful. Useless, they found a way to effectively counter the airborne attack, and fast. Konoha was as good as a pile of ashes. He kept his distance and allowed Amaru to grieve, as they stood above the hasty grave, the doctor's torn bee vest hanging from it, tugged by the breeze. She'd have to find her own strength now. The man had said more encouraging and inspiring words than Naruto could have at the moment. She would have to keep those in mind and move forwards. Amaru, he called gently. The amount of grief radiating off of her chilled the air and it saddened him. We'll have to go, if we want to find the villages and the Sora Nin. If we fail, more people may die. Amaru took a shaky breath and then nodded. Let's go. As they walked away, he saw her throw one last glance at the grave. For a while, perhaps it was a mistake on his part, but he wasn't keeping track of time. They walked in silence, until they stopped and Sasuke looked around. Perhaps we should split up. I don't think that's a too good idea, Neji said, obviously uneasy, as the forest thickened around them and mist crawled in. Naruto could smell water nearby. Naruto threw him a reassuring glance. Relax. It's going to be fine. You go with Sasuke. I'll go with Amaru. Neji glanced at both of them and his lips twitched. Was that Anada, Asura-sama? He hissed softly, so that Amaru would not hear. Naruto hummed, it was a friendly request, however, you can take it as an order, from a higher-ranking officer, Chunin, he said, his lips curling upwards. Neji sighed and then looked at Sasuke. I so don't like that you two are jonin. His brother smirked and made a gesture towards the other direction. Let's go. The two of them leapt away and Naruto turned to Amaru. Shall we? The russet-haired girl barely glanced at him, as she started walking. Sure, she murmured. Naruto frowned, as he followed. This downtrodden attitude would not do. He skidded to a halt, when he noticed dark, towering ruins ahead in the mist. The place gave off the same uneasy, unnameable feeling he'd been getting since the start. So, this had to be it. Look, Amaru, we're here. Her gaze barely flicked upwards at the place. Good. He frowned in worry, but they really didn't have time to stop. He would have to speak with her later. I'm worried for her. She's been too quiet, since we left the village's ruins behind. Humans grieve, Ashura, and you know it. You and Indra were emotionally unstable for a very long while, after you remembered. You recall how you slept back to back on that tiny bed for the first week after he fled the hospital. Or how he lost it, seeing B, on the way to Nami. But this is different. That energy sets me on edge. It's unknown and foul. Makes my hackles rise, he protested. Besides, their situation had been really different. They had a few thousand years of mistakes, hurt and B to deal with. You don't even have hackles, Asura-kun. Kurama pointed out with a deadpan tone. Naruto huffed, mentally rolling his eyes. Figure speech, Ni-sama. Figure speech. He kept going forwards, stretching his sensory out, but as he felt the strange chakra again, he yanked it back, as if burned. Warily, he clipped the shakujo from his back and sent a tiny burst of chakra into it. The seals he covered his new weapon with, pulsed to life with a soft, gold-green light. As he glanced around, he noticed that he was alone. Amaru was gone from behind him. He grit his teeth, as a cold shiver ran down his spine. Not good. Where could she have gone? He muttered. The mist was really making it hard to see, but he didn't feel like using chakra to even stir the wind. Something was nearby and he was loath to call attention, without knowing what it was. He walked for a few minutes, eyes everywhere, trying to spot the source of the uneasy feeling, until he noticed Amaru, walking towards him slowly, her head down. He blinked and lowered his weapon. Amaru, are you okay? Where you've been? Slowly, Amaru raised her head and he saw, her eyes turned bright red. He straightened up. I am the Ribi. When conflict rages in the world and human hearts are overtaken by darkness, I am born anew. Naruto pressed his lips together, taking a step back. What the F is this? I consume the darkness of men's souls, rise up and grow, gathering limitless strength. The eerie voice hissed. Naruto saw a dark shadow curl around Amaru. It looked vaguely leech-like, its body a dark shade of purple, with a white mask for face. I'd like to know that myself, Ashura. Kurama growled, his eyes flashing sinisterly. But it's that thing that gives off the hackle-rising energy. So that this world would be ruled by darkness, the voice growled. The ghostly form condensed, forming an actual, physical body, sallowing Amaru. The creature grinned, the expression sinister and disturbing in every sense of the word. The grin was way too wide for its face. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.